artist in residence, which isn't an unusual thing to find on the shop floor. I can tell you that Nicola Ellis joins us this morning. Thanks for coming in for a chat, Nicola. Now, we heard you in action earlier on at Ritherdon in Darwen. If you don't mind, will you sort of explain to us how you became the artist in residence there? Because when you think of an East Lancashire factory, you don't automatically think, oh, I bet they need an artist in residence. So how did that all come about? How did it become a job?
Yeah, sure. Right. So it goes back as far as 2018.
Love this.
And I'm still there to this day, obviously. They just keep letting me in. So it all started with the National Festival of Making, which you may know happens in Blackburn every year. And they introduced Ritherdon and I, so I could go in for about a 10-week residency and produce a piece of sculpture for the sort of central programme of the festival that year.
Okay.
And then I was fortunate enough, everyone really got on and, we were sort of mutually interested in each other. So I was fortunate enough to get an Arts Council grant to support sort of an extension of the residency, if you will, for actually 2 years. I was there for like 1 or 2 days a week for 2 years, just to respond and make work in relation to the factory infrastructure. And then moving on from that, there always seems to be these like additional additional bits. So then Ritherdon and I teamed up with a technology provider to undertake a better factory project, which was actually Horizon European funded.
Okay.
So I was a bit of a creative consultant within that to come up with solutions for greater efficiencies or improvements in the factory infrastructure. So that's like being an artist plus.
Oh yeah. Bit of extra value for them.
Yes. And while all of this is going on, fortunately, the Government Art Collection and the Arts Council England National Collection had acquired some of the work that I'd made there. So it's a bit of a solidification of the legacy,
Wow, that's really good.
Yes.
What was your original brief then? What was the original sort of like, right, this is your brief?
It was a kind of an open brief, really. It was to go in and sort of not find your own way, but to identify what the project was that you were doing within the initial 10 weeks, the first section of that, if you will. And I chose to try and respond to each of the departments on the factory floor through sculptural means. So it was quite broad.
So what was that the first thing you made, for example?
That's a good question. I think I saw the paint shop, so colloquially known as the paint shop, the factory powder coating unit, and I was like, oh my God.
I love the way the factory call it the factory powder. It's the powder coating unit, but everyone just calls it.
It's the paint shop.
Paint shop.
Yeah. And I think, as you know, this is true of all of the manufacturing processes in Ritherdon, and everything's very accurate and wonderful and standardised. But I thought there must be loads of things that you shouldn't do with this powder coating system. So I was sort of asking the lads, well, what would you consider an error or like a contamination? So they showed me what that might be. And I was like, okay, let's do that. Let's see what else we can get out of the process as an alternative product.
Gosh, I love it. And am I right in thinking that you get employees involved as well?
Oh, 100%.
Because you already, I heard you saying, you were like, can I ask you about this? And what would be this? So what was their reaction to you like at first? Because I'm guessing that they don't really work with artists in residence.
Not usually, but I think I would say the Ritherdon factory has quite a lot of guests, actually. So people are accustomed to, talking to visitors and so on, maybe suppliers or something like that. But I just didn't really have any problems because I'm from sort of an industry factory of engineers and, clerical workers as well.
Yeah.
So we had a shared language in fabrication, if that makes sense. So I think it's the same as anything. When you speak a similar language to people, it's,
they get it.
No problems.
Right. Yeah. Well, hang on where you are. I've got loads more questions I want to ask, but I'm going to get to a tune now. This is Belinda Carlisle. Sort of work in reality.
Yeah. So actually a lot of the ideas for the artworks come from our relationships with the people.
Okay.
Because, there's a lot of camaraderie in working on the factory floor, as you can imagine. It's my favourite thing. And a lot of the making is in collaboration with them. So as an example, because I know that sounds a bit obtuse, we heard Jason earlier commenting on the 5x5 metre sculpture that he helped me make. So that was of a press brake, which is the large bending machine in the factory.
Okay.
And it was actually being made by the press brake. So it was like this machine self-portrait, if you will, concept. And I was working with Jason, who's one of the fabricators there. And, you know, we had the start of the usual CAD instructions of sort of how the bits are going into the machine. There was 36 pieces in this massive thing. But there came a point where actually you can't follow any standard instructions anymore because it is not a standardized product. It's a new sculpture. It's a new shape that we were trying to get out of the system. So at that point, you know, the real collaboration happened because I was totally reliant on Jason's intuition and his like years of interacting with this machine, which was actually quite old at the time and has now been replaced. So this work is like, you know, a sort of effigy to that. So yeah, in that way, that's just one example really, but it's a lot of it is a collaboration, yeah.
Do you think the idea then of firms having an artist in residence can catch on and become more of a, maybe more of a common thing? Because I think what you do is unusual, but also it seems to me very valuable what you do.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
And it's not kind of an absolutely new concept. It was sort of spearheaded by Barbara Stravini in the 60s and 70s with the artist placement group. So there is a little bit of art history to this as well.
Legacy there, yeah.
And me building on that. But I think... Yeah, it depends maybe what the company's priorities are ultimately.
Totally.
But I know that Ritherdon really care about the people that work for them. And I think, you know, what I do brings a different kind of value to what is already going on with, like, you know, the pride of making the products. Because I'm ultimately a sort of a spectator, a collaborator, and then these, you know, the products that we produce go out and people kind of interact with them in a different way than they do with the Ritherdon products. And it's kind of about celebrating the, you know, the skills that they have and that sort of thing.
It's very specialised skills as well. Very, very specialised skills, what they do.
100%, yeah. And coming from the sort of industrial family, you know, I really recognise that. So that's like, you know, my first language. I've got a bit of insight and I just want to use my position to bring that out of the factory walls, really, and show other people. Because maybe there is this, you know, public perception that we don't manufacture things in this country anymore, but actually that's wild because, you know, we're in like an epicentre of that in Lancashire.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Couldn't be further from the truth.
Exactly.
Before I let you go, Nicola, what are you working on now? Are you working on something different now? Because I'm imagining your job is interesting because you are you there? Because you're not there every day, are you? You're there a few days.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 days a week at the moment, yeah. So actually, I can sort of briefly mention, I have got a solo exhibition of work made at Ritherdon coming up at Home, the arts centre in the centre of Manchester.
Amazing.
And that's in February, so I've got quite a nice lead-in time for that. And the overall focus of that is sort of focusing on the points where people, materials and machinery make contact with each other.
Okay.
So there will be a documentary style film artwork that captures like the skilled physical work of a welder inside a welding booth, kind of breaking the barrier between the welder and the outside world, who's, you know, usually pretty isolated because of the UV light.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there will also be a series of sculptures which kind of incorporates the process of 3D scanning, which is this sort of wonderful new technology, isn't it? It's a bit like magic, actually, like Ben was talking about before.
Well, you sort of watch it, when you watch 3D scan, there's a funny thing to watch, and then you're looking and you're like, at first, if you don't know what's being printed, you're like, well, what's this going to be? And then it is like a bit of magic before you, it takes a bit of time, to be fair, but when you're like, oh, that's what it is.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, so yesterday I was working on a scan of a chap called Jan who's just retired from Ritherdon. So again, you know, the work sometimes captures a place and time in the factory. So it's like a time stamp.
Yeah.
And I had him printed out really large, but he was just placing his PPE on his ears, you know, like his so we were all assembling Jan in the assembly section of Ritherdon yesterday.
Love that.
You know,
what a retirement gift.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, Nicola, I've really enjoyed our chat. Best of success with your exhibition next year and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks.